Hello, I'm Joanne Myers, Director of Public Affairs Programs. As many of you know, the Carnegie Council has been a forum for the discussion of ethical issues in international decision-making. But to continue to bring these wonderful programs to you, we need your help. Please visit carnegiecouncil.org, click on Donate/Join. Thank you for doing so.
And in researching the United States and its role in the arms trade, it was interesting to me to note that during the 60s, the 70s, and most of the 80s, the US led the way in terms of corruption in foreign arms deals, employing agents from the extreme of perhaps the leading mafioso in Japan, a gentleman by the name of Kodama, also known as the Monster, to the husband of the Queen of the Netherlands, who was an agent for both Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman at the same time. The companies didn't know this for many years, and who was paid millions of dollars to try and persuade European governments to buy from the companies. But as a consequence of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, toughening up of the act, and far, far tougher enforcement, starting particularly in the early 90s, it became far more difficult for American defense contractors to engage in corruption in foreign deals. It's not that it doesn't happen at all, but it has become far less commonplace than it was. And instead, where so much of the arms trade and what is wrong with it is reflected is in the domestic US weapons procurement system, where, and I say this advisedly as an outsider, as somebody who spent my years in public life creating public financial management frameworks, the system, to me, is built on a circle of patronage between defense companies, lobbyists, lawmakers, the White House, and the Pentagon. A scheme of mutual back-scratching that doesn't break US law, but that a senior Capitol Hill staffer who'd worked on committees involved in the procurement process for over 2 decades described to me as a system of legalized bribery. Its consequences are often inordinately expensive weapon systems that are sometimes inappropriate to the country's defense needs, on occasion don't perform as promised, and inevitably are delivered years, sometimes decades late. The Pentagon officials who make the decisions about what weapons projects to embark on and who to purchase them from have an inherent need to keep the defense contractors on side, reflected by the fact that in 2010, 84% of the most senior generals and officials who retired from the Pentagon went to work for defense contractors in senior executive positions, the very companies to whom they had been awarding contracts during their careers. Lawmakers enjoy significant campaign contributions from the defense companies and their employees, in addition to which, on the major contracts, there are promises of jobs in virtually every congressional district. And as I discovered, those jobs sometimes constitute 2 or 3 people sitting around a table doing nothing in particular. But it makes it extremely difficult for a lawmaker to vote against a weapons project and face the opprobrium that follows when they are labeled as voting against jobs for their own districts. When I started to get this sort of information about these projects from a range of sources, I thought to myself, well, at least there must be the appropriate checks and balances. There's got to be some underlying reason why these projects are happening. And I was truly shocked to discover that the Pentagon, the biggest employer and the biggest spender in the United States government, and therefore possibly of any government department anywhere in the world, has not been audited for well over 2 decades. Congress insisted that the Pentagon make itself audit ready by 2014. Earlier this year, senior officials appeared before a congressional committee to inform the committee that they will miss that deadline, but that they hope to be audit ready by 2017. And this, I remind you, is the formal or clean trade in weapons. But the reality is that this formal trade, this government-to-government trade, also supports the black and the grey trades.